Now, I know this is a pretty unpopular opinion, but Horimiya was the absolute worst representation of what a healthy relationship looks like. Now, even though I actually did enjoy the show, I felt like the toxicity of Hori and Miyamura's relationship needed to be addressed. Now, I'm not saying it's as toxic as, let's say, Yuki and Yuno from Future Diary. That'll be a completely different video. But Hori and Miyamura's relationship has all the characteristics of a toxic relationship. We have physical abuse. We have lack of respect for boundaries. We have possessive behavior. We've even seen her sniff him like a dog to make sure that there was no one else's scent on him. Like, this is the definition of a toxic, abusive relationship, and I don't think it's talked about enough. And what I find hilarious is that the show portrays these moments as cute or romantic, but as I'm watching it, I'm like, wow, this is really toxic. Now, I get it, it's just an anime, it's not meant to be taken so seriously, and I understand that these elements are usually used for comedic relief and whatnot, but I don't know, it was something about Horimiya where these things kind of just rubbed me the wrong way. So the show follows Kyoko Hori and Izumi Miyamura. Hori is your typical model student. She's strong, she's top of her class, she's part of the student council, she's popular. And on the other hand, we have Miyamura, who's portrayed as the weird emo kid in class who doesn't have any friends. And what I found hilarious is that it wasn't until Hori discovered what I call Miyamura's bad boy look that she starts to pay him any attention. Which honestly, I can't be too mad at because, I mean, look at him. I'm not gay or anything, but I know an attractive guy when I see one. And within the first episode, we already have our first red flag that shows how possessive Hori is over Miyamura. Hori tells Miyamura that she doesn't want anyone to quote unquote see him this way. And what she's referring to is his bad boy look. So she's pretty much telling him that your true physical appearance is only for my eyes. And they try to make this scene come off as really romantic and sweet. You got the soft music going on, you got the little white sparkles going on in the background. And what I immediately start thinking to myself is, that sounds awfully controlling. Imagine me telling a girl that I'm dating with D cups to wear oversized sweaters because I don't want anyone else to know that she has D cups. I'm pretty sure I'd be wrong for that. And to be fair, Miyamura did respond with the same sentiment, telling Hori that he doesn't want anyone else to see her this way either. But when Miyamura told her that, he was referring to her nurturing side when she's at home. Because the thing is, when she's at school, she's strong, she's assertive, she's pretty much that alpha female archetype character. But when she's at home, she's more nurturing, she's softer, she's cooking, she's cleaning, she's taking care of her little brother. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for Miyamura to express that he only wants her to share these more intimate, softer moments with just him. Whereas Hori is only concerned about how he looks. There's another scene where Remy, or Rami, whatever you want to go with, confronts Hori on her relationship with Miyamura. She straight up asks her if they're dating and Hori denies it. Remy calls dibs on Miyamura since him and Hori aren't dating and he's fair game. Hori then gets upset and then starts telling Remy, "He's mine, he's mine, he's mine, he's mine." And it was the language that she was using in this scene that really was kind of off-putting to me, as if Miyamura was some type of object that you own. Then we have the Chika situation. So what happens here is that Hori gets word from her little brother that he's seen Miyamura walking home from school with a girl with her arms wrapped around him. Also for context, Hori and Miyamura are dating at this point. Hori immediately jumps to conclusion and assumes that Miyamura is cheating on her, even though Miyamura hasn't given her any reason to believe that he would cheat on her. The next day at school, Hori confronts Miyamura and hits him with the,
"Who is she?"
Miyamura tries to explain to Hori that she twisted her ankle and she was just using him as a crutch on her way home from school, and that him and Chika are the furthest from anything romantic. But to no surprise, Hori isn't trying to hear it. She's too blinded by rage and jealousy that when Miyamura continues to try to explain the situation, he's met with a book to the face. Now, I really did try to play devil's advocate for a second in this scene. I always say that jealousy is a normal feeling to feel in a relationship, but what's important is how you deal with that jealousy and how you communicate that feeling to your partner. So when Hori first got word that Miyamura was walking home from school with a girl's arm wrapped around him, I don't think it's necessarily wrong of her to feel jealous and want to know what what that was about. But the issue is when she confronted Miyamura, she was too aggressive and didn't listen to anything he had to say. And honestly, after the whole Chika situation, I had to go online to see if anyone else was thinking the same way that I was. And to my surprise, I was not the only one. I managed to find numerous topics of people pretty much pointing out the same things that I am. I even found a few people on the Horimiya subreddit who said they couldn't even finish the show because they thought it was so abusive. And I'm not gonna lie, it was good to know that I wasn't alone in my thought process about this show. We are the minority though, because it seems like majority of the people who watch the show like them as a couple. I also want to address how more emotionally mature Miyamura is than Hori, specifically when it comes to dealing with jealousy. And I didn't see anyone during my deep dive mention this. There was this scene in season 2. Hori is on the roof of the school working on a painting. Mizoichi approaches her, and Hori mentions how her legs are cold because she's wearing a skirt. Now, get this. Mizoichi takes off his sweater and puts it over Hori's legs, and then just walks away. Moments later, Miyamura shows up, and he notices the jacket on Hori's legs, and he asks, whose jacket is it? And all Miyamura does is swap his own jacket with Mizoichi's. That's it. There's no yelling, there's no screaming, there's no books being thrown, and I would say that's a healthy way of dealing with jealousy. And could you imagine if the roles were reversed and Hori found another girl's sweater on Miyamura? Miyamura probably would have been put in the hospital. And it was that scene that confirmed it for me, where I was like, Miyamura is way too good for Hori. But speaking of putting people in hospitals, we have to talk about the physical abuse. Now, I recognize that the whole romantic partners hitting each other in anime isn't anything new, and it's usually something used for comedic relief. For example, I didn't feel the same way watching Taiga beat up Ryuji in Toradora, or watching Louise the Great Saito in Familiar of Zero. And if I had to take a guess, I think it's because Horimiya took a more realistic approach on relationships. I don't know, if you have any other ideas, let me know in the comments. But I literally counted 11 different instances of physical abuse in Horimiya, and that's just towards Miyamura. That's not including the other side characters. Even her own father be getting the beats. And what would make it even worse is that Miyamura would often validate her physical abusive behavior. There would be multiple times where Hori would get mad over a misunderstanding and hit Miyamura, and somehow Miyamura would be the one to end up apologizing. Once again, I'm gonna bring up the whole Chika situation. And somehow Miyamura was the one that ended up apologizing to her, even after taking 2 books to the face. And it eventually gets to the point that I noticed that Miyamura developed some type of trauma response. There's another scene where Hori gets angry watching Miyamura talk to another girl that's sitting next to him in class, even though she was only asking to use his book. And I'm gonna be honest, she's a lot better looking than Hori. When they get home, Miyamura is shown cowering away from Hori, thinking that she's about to hit him. And what I found funny is that she asks him, what is he freaking out about? As if she hasn't been beating up Miyamura throughout the entire series. And the abuse gets so bad to the point where Miyamura shows up to class with a bandage on his face due to Hori hitting him the night before. And for the first time in the series, even the friends look concerned. And the whole time I'm watching this, I'm saying to myself, why is he still with Hori? He can do so much better than her. Because the thing is, Miyamura is a genuinely nice person. He's kind-hearted, he's considerate, he goes out of his way to make others happy. And the only thing I could think of is he has abandonment issues and he's scared to lose his social circle that he developed once he got to know Hori. Because when you think about it, if it wasn't for her, he would probably still be the lonely, emo, weird kid in class. But now, because of Hori, he actually has a pretty big social circle. And if he breaks up with Hori, all that's gone. I don't know, that's my theory. Let me know if you could come up with a better reason down in the comments. But lastly, I want to talk about Hori's kink. And if you haven't watched the show, you'll eventually find out that Hori is pretty much a masochist. She derives pleasure from being slapped, hit, chokeslammed, and degraded by Miyamura. And she makes this very clear. Now, my issue isn't with the kink per se, because hey man, people are free to do whatever they want in the bedroom as long as there's consent on both sides. My issue is with the fact that Miyamura makes it clear to Hori that him doing these things make him uncomfortable. But obviously, to no surprise, she doesn't listen at all. She still pressures him to slap her and degrade her in public, sometimes even hitting him if he doesn't. So sometimes Miyamura will reluctantly do it just to appease her, but it clearly makes him unhappy. There are even points where he cries because it makes him so uncomfortable. So it shows that she doesn't have respect for Miyamura's boundaries at all. She's pressuring him to be somebody that he's not. And the thing is, I feel like Hori knows that Miyamura can't say no to her. and she uses that to her advantage. We see this in one of the scenes where she's trying to convince him to slap her, and Miyamura keeps refusing. When she realizes that he's not going to change his mind, she resorts to using manipulation by saying things like, "Does my happiness not matter?" And obviously her saying that will cause him to cave. And what makes me feel really bad for Miyamura is that Hori tries really hard to get him to act outside of his character. As I said before, Miyamura is a very soft, sweet, kind-hearted person, and for Hori to try and get him to act outside of his character by pressuring him to hit her or berate her in public illustrates how she doesn't have respect for his boundaries. And just to be clear, I wouldn't have an issue if Miyamura shared the same kink that Hori did. They could be the anime version of Blueface and Krishan for all I care. But the point is that Miyamura doesn't share that kink, and it's being forced upon him by Hori. Now, I hope I didn't manage to upset the Horimiya fandom too much, but I really wanted to just express my thoughts on Hori and Miyamura's dynamic. Overall, I really did enjoy the show. I appreciate the fact that this was a relationship that was established from the beginning of the series, and we didn't have to wait 12 episodes in for the possibility of them getting together. Not to throw shade at Kaguya-sama or anything. One thing though, I would like to have seen Hori and Miyamura's relationship get tested in some way. At least within the anime, I believe the roughest obstacle they had to overcome as a couple was Miyamura being gone for a week to attend a funeral. Like, that's it. Like, give me a cheating arc, give me an arc where they get into a huge fight and they temporarily break up. Give me something more than them just having to be without each other for a week. But anyways, that's all I have for this topic. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who disagree with me. If you do, feel free to post below in the comments. I'll try and find time to go back and forth with everybody. And besides that, please hit the like and subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. This is my first YouTube video, so please cut me some slack. Thank you.